Are there any difficulties around blockchain technologies?
It's relatively new technology, so we are, seeing sort of still discovering the potential. So when you have a very new technology with some different vision of how the world can work, sometimes it takes some time before people discover the new things that are possible with it. So to make an analogy, in the very early days of the internet, people didn't necessarily predict social media or online games and many of the interesting developments. So one of the interesting possibilities is that the financial networks will become more open, and smaller startups or even individual developers can start to provide interesting financial applications or applications in markets that are not well served because they're very low value payments for micropayments, or because they're in emerging markets where financial services are provided, where it's harder to get for access to financial services. So it will be interesting to see, what the ecosystem is able to innovate on top of the platform. So in terms of uncertainties, one of the things that blockchains provide very interesting properties that were not previously possible, which is sort of often described as programmable trust. So the ability to trust a form of automation that's autonomous and managed by the network rather than by a trusted intermediary. But one of the costs of this kind of automation is a very high reliance on security. And so I think blockchains are sort of driving some new levels of security defenses. And so there are a number of companies now providing hardware security tokens, so as well as sort of existing smart card form factors, also form factors that have a small screen and maybe a couple of buttons to confirm transactions. And those provide security because they're isolated systems. They're not connected to the internet. There's a gap, an air gap as it's called, between this sort of verification confirmation device and a smartphone or a general computer, which is more vulnerable to compromise. So I think those kinds of very high-level security are necessary if we're to rely on this infrastructure for high-value financial transactions and consumers' payments. So I think there's room for further research and application of investors' money into sort of moving the state-of-the-art forward on security.
What do you expect to Digital Garage as a business partner?
So, we're excited to work with Digital Garage on the loyalty points system, and it's interesting to look at moving the loyalty points and the exchange of different kinds of points into a blockchain format. And we can then see the blockchain execute the transaction between the different types of points, and potential market making activity can happen in the network in a kind of guaranteed way and provide sort of assurance for the end users, and potentially a more open kind of network. So potentially admitting smaller developers or smaller companies or individual developers to innovate on the platform in a more kind of free way. I understand currently it's quite complicated to start a new application. In an existing payment network, you would have to negotiate a contract with one of the points providers, and it might take a couple of months before you get a development kit. So in this model, we might see more innovation and more interesting applications for users to play, different places for them to spend loyalty points.